You want aces? You got aces tonight for MLB DFS. We have you, Darvish, Clayton Kershaw, and Trevor Bauer all on the slate and all available to us. So let's dive on in and get you set for Wednesday night slate in MLB DFS. Welcome on into the FanDuel Fantasy Q&A. My name is Jim Sonis. I am a senior writer and analyst for numberFire.com here for the next 25 minutes to answer your questions about tonight's MLB DFS slate. If you have questions around tonight, whether it be pitchers, stacks, one-offs, value plays, process, weather, whatever it may be, put it on the YouTube chat, or if you're watching on Twitch, you can put it there. Facebook, it does not matter where you are watching. Just put it in the chat. We'll get to that question live on air for today. As mentioned yesterday, a special broadcast coming up this week on Friday at 3:30 p.m. on these same channels, YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook. We're going to be live with myself, JJ Zacharyson, and Brandon Gadula getting you set for week number 1 of the NFL, where we're doing a live snake draft on FanDuel on air. So if you want to get set for week number 1, we'll probably have time for questions after the snake draft. Dive on in and subscribe to the FanDuel YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook pages to get notifications as we go live each and every day, not just Friday, but every other day as well. We'll have our waiver wire Q&A coming up on Tuesday of next week to get you set for week number 2 of the NFL. That'll be with myself and JJ. That'll be at 3:30, and you can just stay in the same stream, because what we'll do is we'll have the snake draft on Friday at 3:30, and then we'll just keep the stream open, and I'll pop off for 2 seconds, probably go to the bathroom. We'll pop back on and get you set for MLB DFS on the exact same stream. So just make it easy on yourself and make sure you are subscribed wherever you decide to consume these various pieces of content. For today, it is Yu Darvish Day, which means that we're using Yu Darvish on FanDuel. He is $11,500, but I honestly do not care. I'm going to plug you in every single time. I think like Clayton Kershaw is a really respectable number 2 option. I have him slightly ahead of Trevor Bauer. I think that Bauer's fun because Bauer's a very good pitcher, but also because the wind is blowing in at Wrigley Field for today, which is always a good thing for pitchers. So a couple of good things in Bauer's favor, and that's why I view him as being number 2. The reason I have Kershaw above Bauer, even when considering that, is that Kershaw is facing the Diamondbacks, a 56 WRC plus against lefties, just really, really bad, whereas Bauer's facing the Cubs with a 106 WRC plus against righties. So the matchup very much favors Kershaw over Bauer. The Diamondbacks did just see Kershaw, and his velocity was down a hair in that game, but I honestly don't know if it matters. It's just kind of Clayton Kershaw, no matter what, for me for today, over Trevor Bauer. So it's Darvish 1, Kershaw 2, Bauer 3. From a value play perspective, I love Dane Dunning. He is $7,700 facing the Pirates. The Pirates, as you can see here, whole lot of green for a pitcher, 67 WRC plus, 25% strikeout rate. Dunning hasn't gone deep in games yet, no more than 5 innings pitched so far, but he went 88 pitches last time out, but gets slowly ramped up. So I think that there is the potential for him to go deeper in the game. That's why I do like Dane Dunning. So from pitching perspective, we are on Darvish, Kershaw, Bauer, and Dunning for tonight. As mentioned, make sure you get your questions in on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, wherever you're watching. We'll get to those questions for today. But let's start things off here on YouTube with Mateo. Which right-handed bats are good against right-handed pitchers on the Padres and Oakland? Okay, so let's start here with Oakland, because I do like the Oakland hitters quite a bit. Let's see if the Oakland lineup is out. So I want to see if Matt Chapman specifically is in there for the A's. It does not appear the lineup is in there for the A's yet. It is not. So no word on Matt Chapman. We can go here, answer your question, Mateo, and pull up the A's numbers against righties so far this year. And again, because it is a small sample, we want to depend on these peripheral numbers: hard hit rate, fly ball rate, strikeout rate, as opposed to just WRC plus. So Marcus Semien, a low hard hit rate this year, but still a good fly ball rate, still not striking out all that much. So Mateo, in this question, asking about which A's can do well against righties, I would still include Marcus Semien in that equation, even though the hard hit rate is low and the results are bad. So I'm going to still include Marcus Semien in that discussion. Ramon Laureano tends to hit near the top of the order. Kind of similar to Semien, where a low hard hit rate, not the best results, but better results. Doesn't strike out too much, and Laureano can steal bases too. So I would include Laureano in that discussion as well. I think the top guys you want to lock in are Tommy La Stella, and then I would go with Matt Olson number 2, because they're lefties. They can do well here. So I would say those two first, but then among the righties, I would say Laureano and Semien are both really good options. We've seen Mark Canha still hit pretty high in the order against righties, and he strikes out a bit, but good hard contact number. So honestly, Mateo, I don't think there are any any hitters you need to exclude based on what they do against righties for the A's, but I would start with La Stella and Olsen there. As far as the Padres go, they are facing Senzatela. So Senzatela is a ground ball pitcher, which does lower my enthusiasm around the Padres, but I'm not off of them by any means. Let's see if the lineup is out here for San Diego. Okay, so we have Tatis, Machado, Myers, and Nola as guys to check out. Austin Nola actually has pretty good numbers against righties, if I recall correctly. We know Tatis and Machado will have good numbers against righties, so that's not going to be a major concern. Nola, 45% hard hit rate, 42% fly ball rate. I made a mistake last night. I did stack the Padres, and I didn't have Nola in enough lineups, so that hurts when he had that 3-run home run. But I think that assuming he's batting fifth or so against tonight, definitely someone you could use. So I would say Nola is one of those guys who does well against righties. Obviously, Tatis is in that same realm. Manny Machado, good numbers against righties too. So honestly, I think Mateo, with both the Padres and the Athletics, you are getting a lot of players who can do well against righties, even though they are righties themselves. So I think that pretty much everyone is in play there, to answer your question. Aaron says, Oakland 1-4 is a nice stack. Yeah, I want to see what their lineup looks like, but I agree based on the projected lineup, Aaron, that it's a pretty good play to go with the top 4 batters in the A's lineup, at least based on what I would expect it to be. Steve on Facebook, thoughts on differing up strategies for 7-inning games? As mentioned yesterday, we kind of got this question regarding 7-inning games. FanDuel is not including the 7-inning games on the main slate. I do not know if other sites are doing so, but FanDuel is not putting those 7-inning games on the main slates for the doubleheaders. So it's not of concern on FanDuel. For other sites, it'd be really hard to get enthused about bats because it's too few innings for them to get volume. That impacts things. It could also impact pitch counts for pitchers. So it would impact things, but that's why we play on FanDuel instead. And don't worry about the 7-inning games. Chuck, Ben, Cam, or Kyler? So again, we're going to have our week 1 stream coming up on Friday, previewing the NFL. But because you're here, Chuck, and I appreciate you tuning in, I will say Kyler Murray. It's a tough matchup with the 49ers, but it's Kyler, so I'm going to go Kyler. I would put Cam. Cam and Ben are also good options, so maybe you want to go them. I would go Kyler, then Cam, then Ben for me. Alvin, the Rangers lineup stinks. That is an evergreen statement, Alvin, and I always agree. Would you prefer them as one-offs instead of full stacks? Literally 2 minutes before we went on air today, I saw that Shin-Soo Choo went on the injured list. I tried to recover emotionally from that before we went live. Couldn't do so, unfortunately. I'm still trying to claw my way back from the news that Shin-Soo Choo is on the injured list. Thoughts and prayers to Shin-Soo Choo. I am sad about this. Yes, I think that's the right way to view it, Alvin, where because the lineup is bad, we want to skew more towards one-offs rather than full stacks. And Mr. One-Off himself is batting fourth, Joey Gallo. Joey Gallo's salary has come down. I think that's a good thing for sure. I don't mind Ronald Guzman. He's batting seventh, which is a bit lower than you would like to see. But I still think that is it's high enough where I can still go there. Guzman, let's check the salary here. He is $2,500. Rougned Odor coming off the injury list is $2,500 as well. Let's check out the numbers here for the Rangers guys. But I agree, Alvin. Their lineup is pretty bad. I was kind of worried that might happen if Choo couldn't come back for today. And, of course, he obviously will not. So Odor, I know the results are bad. And he's probably not going to do well. But, I could talk myself into Rougned Odor. Ronald Guzman against righties, pretty small sample, but he did pretty well against them last year too. So I would say between Gallo, Guzman, and Odor, you could talk yourself into a Rangers stack. But Alvin, I think the better route, like you said, is probably sticking to one-offs. I think that you have the right read on that game. Any interest in the Mariners or the Angels? This is also coming from Alvin. Okay, so let's check out the Mariners. I think they're facing Kyle Cody. Or no, the Angels are facing Kyle Cody. Kyle Cody faced the Mariners last week. So Kyle Cody is a guy we don't have a lot of data on. The numbers I have here, I believe, are the projections from the bat for him. So they project a 23% strikeout rate. Derek Carty's system does an 11% walk rate. He's let up a 57% hard hit rate so far. So it's kind of hard to get a good read on Cody because the data is so limited. But I think you can play the assumption game here and assume that he struggles. In that case, the Angels could do well. So, Alvin, I think the Angels are a decent option. They're not like my favorite option because Cody could be good. I just don't really know. But there is a situation where we can take advantage of those unknowns and go that way. So I think the Angels are a decent stack. I am okay with them. The other one Alvin asked about was the Mariners. Mariners are facing Tyler Anderson. I hate the park, as you know. They've cooled off against lefties since the start of the year, so I really don't want to go there if I can avoid it. I would try to avoid the Mariners. Like, it's a good matchup in theory, but Anderson does limit our contact. It's a bad park, so I try to avoid it, but like they're in play. I'd prefer the Angels of the two you asked, between the Angels and the Mariners. Cody asked for the best stack overall. It's between the Mets and the A's. I would lean towards the A's just because I still have lingering pains from last night with the Mets burning me. So maybe that's a dumb answer, but I think the A's are pretty good. Luis Garcia is coming up from low A. It's high A, I think. High A to pitch in the majors. Did look decent in his first start, but he also walked a bunch of guys. He had walk issues in high A, so I'm expecting him to struggle against an offense as good as the A's, 109 WRC plus against righties, a lot of fly balls, good number of walks as well. So I'd expect him to struggle there. So I think the A's are good. I put the Mets second against Jorge Lopez. Lopez, not a good strikeout pitcher, does get some ground balls, but also lets us some hard contact. So I'd say the A's are 1, Mets are 2 for me for tonight. Kevin, hey Jim, best single entry stacks. Okay, good question. So for single entry, if we're trying to think about this from the perspective of where will people not go? So Kevin, in order to answer that question, I have to talk about pitchers because that will dictate where I go with stacks. For me, it's Yu Darvish. For single entry, I know this is a shock for people who know me that I would be on Yu Darvish, but I'm on Yu Darvish. So if I'm going Yu Darvish at 11.5, I have 29.38 left for my remaining hitters. So I would say in that lineup, I'm going Mets and A's. Both those teams will have value plays for today. So I'm probably just kind of forced into going with the two value-ish stacks, and those are the Mets and the A's. So to me, Kevin, I would say Mets and A's are the best single-entry stacks for today. Bryce, thoughts on the Orioles and the Mets bats? I mentioned before I like the Mets. I think they're, again, one of the better stacks. Rick Porcello has been throwing his slider more often over his past 4 starts, and the peripherals have gotten better for Rick Porcello. You see here a 4.19 skill interactive ERA. This is over his past 5 starts, but he's letting up a lot of balls in play. The reason I am not super interested in the Orioles and the reason I'm lower on them than the Mets is that Anthony Santander is like my favorite hitter on the Orioles, and he's on the injured list. And that does downgrade their entire offense. It's one less viable hitter for me to use. So that does impact the way I view the Orioles. However, I think that there are some one-offs here. DJ Stewart tends to do well against righties. Rio Ruiz usually bats lower in the order, so he moved up for today. I think that's intriguing. I think you could go with those lefties and get them against Rick Porcello, but more interest for me in the Mets versus the Orioles here. Yes, that was Bryce. Kevin says, thanks. You're welcome, Kevin. Question over on Facebook from Austin. The A's could go off tonight. Thoughts? I agree. The reason is, again, they're facing Luis Garcia. Again, making a jump from high A to the majors is tough. And, like, kudos to Luis Garcia. Like, that's awesome that he got this call. He had good numbers in high A, a lot of strikeouts down there, but he also walked a lot of batters. That's probably not an issue that will get better as he faces teams as good as the A's. So I expect the A's to put a lot of runners on base for tonight, and that could lead to some tough things for Luis Garcia. So I don't think the A's lineup, still no A's lineup, but I think the A's are a good stack. We do have the Mets lineup, though, so let's build some stacks here, because why not? We got Nimmo, Conforto, Davis, Smith, Cano, pretty much as expected. So if I'm going Yu Darvish, I'm actually okay putting Jeff McNeil in there. He's batting, so I forgot to change the team. Let's go with the Mets here, see if they're lineup. Okay, so Jeff McNeil is batting 7th. That's not ideal necessarily, but he is good against righties. He's $2,800, fills third base. It's a lot of boxes to check, so I'm going to put Jeff McNeil in there. I would say Nimmo would be in there as well. I think that if we're looking at prioritization of the other batters, it's kind of hard for me to say no to Dominic Smith. Dom Smith, like if you look at his batted ball numbers against right-handed pitching this year, like they're pretty nuts. So I would have a really hard time not making Dominic Smith the number 3 batter I plug in there for this Met stack. 43% hard hit rate against righties, a 42% fly ball rate, not a ton of strikeouts, an amazing result so far. So I probably put Dominic Smith over Michael Conforto for today. It's not something that I usually do because I'm a huge Conforto guy, but I think on this specific slate, that's where I do wind up going. If we do this with all the lefties here outside of Cano within this Mets lineup, there's $2,800 left. I think if you go with the A's, that should be enough depending on what the A's lineup looks like. So I'm personally leaning towards that set of 4 out of the Mets for tonight. I think J.D. Davis, if you want to go cheaper, like if you want to give yourself more flexibility than that A stack, you go J.D. Davis over Conforto. $29.50 left. That'd make it even easier for me to say, to afford the Athletics. J.D. Davis against righties, 44% hard hit rate. Not as many fly balls as you'd like, but good results. So if you want extra flexibility, go Davis over Conforto, but I think that Nimmo, McNeil for value, Dominic Smith, my favorite non-value play on this Mets team for tonight. Alvin asks, where do the White Sox rank in stacks? They're facing JT Brubaker. Brubaker gets some ground balls. He's been okay so far this year, so that's why I'm not super high on them. It's also a bad park, but literally every stack I'm recommending outside the Dodgers is in a bad park, so it's not like this is anything weird. Let's take a look at a deeper look at Brubaker's numbers here. Let's go into his game log over on FanGraphs and change this to be just the games he has started. So from August 6th on, 4.95 ERA. He has a 38% hard hit rate, 44% ground ball rate, 4.84 skill interactive ERA. We can work with that. It's gotten better recently. He's faced Milwaukee twice, though. They're not very good. So I would say the White Sox are probably, I don't know, it depends on how you view the Rangers. I would say the White Sox would be like third or fourth, somewhere on the list. I think it depends on where you put the Rangers. I would probably put the White Sox above the Rangers just because the Rangers didn't get Shin-Soo Choo in there because he's on the injured list. So I would say probably White Sox 3, Rangers 4. Actually, no, Dodgers. I'm going to go Dodgers above the White Sox. So definitive rankings of stacks here after I talk through all this. A's 1, Mets 2, Dodgers 3, White Sox 4, Rangers 5. There we go. Talk through that on air live. We're going to go with that for the ranking for today. Over on Periscope, a question from Dave. No love for the Dodgers, Jim? Yes. Okay. So Dave, good timing as I didn't see your question, but see it now and just talk myself into the Dodgers. It's not because of the bullpen. The bullpen is rough too. It's because the Dodgers are really good and they're facing like a middling pitcher. This is no disrespect to Taylor Clark because Taylor Clark is not a bad pitcher. If you look at him in his 3 starts this year, a 4.47 skill interactive ERA. We have an 11% walk rate, though, 44% hard hit rate. Those are numbers that the Dodgers can take advantage of. So I would say the Dodgers are really good. It also helps that the Dodgers have some value within their team. Gavin Lux double-donged last night. That's probably why Dave is asking about this Dodgers, or talking about the Diamondbacks bullpen. I went to sleep before the second home run for Gavin Lux last night, which makes sense because I think it was after midnight Eastern time, and I'm old. I can't stay up that long when I got to record a podcast at 9. So I missed the second home run, but I was very happy to wake up to that. So Gavin Lux being in there is honestly huge for being able to afford this Dodger stack. We plug him in there with you, Darvish, 30-14. AJ Pollock's been hitting pretty high in the order. He was 3rd last night. He probably bumped down to 5th or so for tonight, but honestly, who cares? So I can plug him in there. Depends on what we see from a lineup perspective. If we get Will Smith batting like in the top 7, and this is the same parameters I gave with Gavin Lux before last night, whereas if we get him in the top 7, I'm going to use him. We got Gavin Lux there last night. Maybe we'll get Will Smith in there too. So wishful thinking, I will put Will Smith in this lineup as well. And then just kind of, pick your poison based on what you need. If you need a shortstop, go Seager. If you want the flex or the utility spot to be your second baseman, which is something I've probably done like twice this year, one of which was last night with Lux and Muncy, and you go Muncy. But it really depends on what you need. So I would say plug in the value plays. Maybe Chris Taylor winds up batting in a decent spot in the order. I think he was 6th last night. Play it based on that. See what the values are and kind of go from there. Question on Twitch from Clear Eyes. I wonder if this is Clear Eyes, Full Hearts. Can't lose. Can you grade my fantasy football team? It's an A. Clear Eyes, Full Hearts. I guarantee it's an A because you're watching here on the FanDuel Fantasy Q&A. What could possibly go wrong? It's an A. If you have any Rams, specifically Van Jefferson, I'll give you an A+. But for right now, Clear Eyes, I'm assuming an A. If there are no Rams, an A-. If you have Van Jefferson, A+. We'll grade it that way. That is the curve for me for grading a fantasy football team is Van Jefferson makes it an A+, no Van Jefferson an A, and no Rams at all, A-. There's your grading scale for you Clear Eyes over on Twitch. Haven't built any lineups here with the A's. So no A's lineup, at least I don't think. Let's refresh this one more time. Let's roll the dice, see if we can get an A's lineup in there. Nope, no dice. Okay, so let's build an A stack based on the assumed lineup. I am going to operate under the assumption that there is no Matt Chapman for tonight because it sounds like that hip injury may be a thing, and he's so crucial defensively where you don't really want to, mess Matt Chapman up, MVP at Chapman. That doesn't work as well in audio as it does visually, but the MVP, Matt Chapman. So I'm going to assume that Matt Chapman is not in there for today. Mentioned before that I think Tommy LaStella is the first guy you lock in. I'm going to do that. Matt Olson said he had to hit the reset button when they had that COVID-19 layoff, but he was doing well enough before then anyway, where we could feel pretty good about him. Let's see what Matt Olson's done here since the end of that layoff. Home run last night for him. He's had a triple there, so we're going to go Matt Olson for sure. Lock him in there. We got LaStella in there, and then I'm going to go Semien and Laureano just because they are lower salary guys. They are righties who can hit righties. So we get the 2 lefties in there, get the 2 righties in there. 29-25 if you are going with the Mets as your other stack. You can get to that really easily. So honestly, I think like we were talking before with, I think, Kevin about single entry stacks. The A's and the Mets actually mesh really well together too from a position perspective. So honestly, they're a dream. And like if I'm going single entry, again, we're not giving out full lineups because we're not going to play things that way. But if I'm going single entry, Darvish, A's, Mets, they mesh so well. It's like there are some teams you just can't stack together because they don't mesh all that well. But these are not teams that operate that way. So thank you to the Mets and the A's for making my life a whole lot easier. If you do want to, again, go with a value play, talk before about how I like Dane Dunning. Let's dive a bit more into why here. And I think that the reasoning why is pretty obvious once you look at what Dunning has done. Dunning has done in his first 3 starts. The skill interactive ERA is 3.75, 31% strikeout rate, which is legitimized by the 17.5% swinging strike rate. We have not talked about this since like the first week, but the rule of thumb is you double the swinging strike rate to get the strikeout rate. If you do that for Dunning, it'd be like 36%. So, or 35% math, 35% for Dane Dunning. And it's probably not going to be that high because his numbers weren't that high in Double-A last year, but like it shows that what he's doing is pretty legit. Now you can pull up the game logs and see, hey, he's faced Detroit and Kansas City twice. Those are good matchups. Well, he doesn't have it's hard to get a better matchup than what he has here tonight. The Pirates, so bad. So I love Yu Darvish. And again, I am going Yu Darvish for a single entry lineup for tonight. However, if you do not want the high salary goodness of Yu Darvish or Clayton Kershaw or Trevor Bauer, I think it's fully justifiable to go down to Dane Dunning, $7,700. That'll let you get, let's go with Mookie and Bellinger in the same lineup and see how crazy we can get. Mookie and Bellinger, start there. We still got 31-17 left. So I say if you're going Dane Dunning, the Dodgers might honestly be the number 1 stack in that situation. But for me personally, if I'm going with Darvish, they get knocked down to number 3. So go crazy on the Dodgers if you can get to Dunning. Actually, let's put Seager and Muncy in here too, because I honestly just curious what we get to if we do this. If we do that, we have 27.75. I can make that work if I go like J.D. Davis and McNeil. Again, we're not giving out full lineups here, but you can make that work. So Dane Dunning is pretty fun. If you're multi-entering, I would try to get some Dane Dunning in there. Question on Twitch from Ghost Blazer, best value hitter. Depends on what stack you're doing, but I think JD Davis, I know he didn't do much last night, hit into a double play right away, but this is a pro JD Davis stream, as always. Wisconsin Woodchucks alum, JD Davis. This is a pro JD Davis stream, so we're going to put JD Davis at the top there. I would there will probably be other ones who will pop up once the A's lineup comes out and once the Dodgers lineup comes out. Gavin Lux could be that guy. But for right now, we'll go JD Davis among the guys who are currently in lineups. That is all the time that we have for today. But as a reminder, please subscribe on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook so you do not forget on Friday about our snake draft stream with myself, JJ Zachariason, and Brandon Gadula. We'll do a snake draft on FanDuel, get you set for week number 1, probably answer some questions as well, and then transition into the 4 p.m. stream immediately after that. So make sure you are subscribed to the FanDuel YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook pages and tune in tomorrow at 4, and then also on Friday at 3:30. Big thank you to Calvin Theobald, our video producer, for the video side of things here today. Thank you, Cal, as always. If you have additional questions for me, I am on Twitter at Jim Sannes, JimSannes. And as always, good luck for tonight. We'll talk to you once again tomorrow. This has been the FanDuel Fantasy Q&A.